The Al Ansar Foundation, Dawah, Tarbiyah, and Education, establishing the foundations of Islamic civilization in South Africa.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. All praise due to Allah, the Lord, cherisher, nourisher, sustainer and master of the universe, the most gracious, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya Allah, it is only you that we worship and your guidance that we seek. Ya Allah, keep us in the straight path. Ya Allah, show us with your choice of blessings. Ya Allah, show us with your mercy. Ya Allah, guide us. Greetings, salam, salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and hosted by myself, Faisal MJ Suleiman. We welcome our listeners on Radio Al Ansar, CII Radio, Voice of the Cape Radio 786, Sirius FM, Radio Islam, and IFM Port Elizabeth, as well as all those listening to us on audio streaming and other platforms. Our topic for discussion is the transition into prosthetics after an amputation. And our guest this evening is Furqan Salim Khamisa, a medical orthotist and prosthetist working in private practice at Ahmed Al Qadi Hospital in Durban. Furqan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah khair for joining me on the program this evening.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I introduced you as an orthotist and a prosthetist. Explain these terms to us.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. An orthotist prosthetist is a member of the allied group of health professionals that deals with the prescription, manufacturing, or fitting of any orthotic or prosthetic devices. Jay.
Okay, now that you've explained to us what's a prosthetist and an orthotist, just to introduce our guest, Furqan Salim Khamisa completed his studies at Shwana University of Technology in Pretoria in the year 2012. He then spent a further 4 years at Wentworth Hospital Orthopedics, gaining a vast amount of experience where he managed various clinics throughout the KZN region while treating patients with various conditions and disabilities. In 2016, he began his own private practice where he manufactures various orthotic and prosthetic devices. He has been with Ahmed Al Qadi since its inception, along with his team of technicians and female orthotists, prosthetists. He is also a member of the ISPO, that's the International Society for Prosthetic and Orthotics, as well as SAOPA, South African Orthotic and Prosthetic Association. He holds numerous certifications in both fields of orthotics and prosthetics, and regularly attends both national and international conferences. So Furqan, we're very fortunate to have you in the studio. And alhamdulillah, I'm very impressed with the CV, although I couldn't pronounce most of the words there. But as we go along, I'm sure you're going to explain that to us. Now, having told us what is an orthotist and what's a prosthetist, what is referred to as an orthotic or a prosthetic device?
Alhamdulillah. No, definitely it is a bit of a mouthful, so we get that quite common. But basically, an orthotic or an orthosis is any externally applied brace, splint, or device that is designed to support, immobilize, or protect a segment of the body.
Mm-hmm.
We would refer to a spinal brace, for example, as an orthosis, a knee brace, or a neck brace, or even a custom-made inner sole as an orthotic device. With regards to prosthetics, a prosthetic device, in simple words, is an artificial limb or a prosthesis that is used to somewhat replace a limb after an amputation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the main causes of amputations, Furqan?
Yeah, so some of the main causes that we find are generally incidences of trauma, where patients are involved in motor vehicle accidents or injury whilst on duty using machinery or equipment at work. So at a motor vehicle accident, the patient involved in an accident and they may lose a limb. At work, they may injure themselves with equipment or machinery or tools, whatever it might be. They may have a finger or two or the hand or a digit amputated. We also have animal bites or snake bites where patients can lose their limbs. In some instances, even congenital anomalies, patients undergo an amputation to enhance their mobility. So that's the elective patients have the amputation done just to ensure that they have mobility going forward. The most common cases or the most common cause for amputations is disease. So diabetes, vascular insufficiency, and so on. That is the most common, I would say. And it's especially common within the Durban area and the KZN area, and more so common within the Indian community. So we have a lot of patients. I would say 80 to 90% of our patients are amputees due to diabetes and complications from there. Others would be infection, bacterial infection or fungal infection. Surgical complications, very seldom. And then item like frostbite, obviously, we're not going to have that as common in the KZN area. But yeah, that's more or less what you're looking at. But again, diabetes being the major cause, so it's very, very important. The patient that are diabetic, they have it's controlled. They look after their feet. The feet being at risk more often than not because it's the furthest away from the heart. So cutting their nails, if they pick up athlete's feet, to ensure that that's treated correctly, because things can rapidly move. As some patients may have experienced, a toe gets amputated, partial foot, and then they have a below-knee amputation. So that's what I would definitely emphasize on with regards to diabetes and patients.
Is the idea to avoid bleeding?
Not necessarily. Well, ideally, yes. So you're not, there's no, if you get your nails cut and so on, you get it done professionally by an experienced podiatrist. You're very cautious on that. You look at your feet daily. At the end of the day, you take off your shoes, look at the feet, especially if you have neuropathy where the patient doesn't have any sensation underneath the feet. Some patients, what happens is, and this is the cases that come by, patient has an amputation, and when you go and we go get deeper into it, then we realize, the patient had a stone in the shoe, and they didn't feel a single thing the entire day. And they go through the entire day with a stone in the shoe. You and I, if we walk not even 10 meters, we stop, we take out the stone because of the high level of discomfort.
Absolutely.
With a diabetic patient with neuropathy and so on, they don't feel that. And at the end of the day, they take off the shoes and the foot, the sock is soaked with blood. And then it's sometimes quite late to do much. Yeah. So that's what you're looking at.
I also heard you talk of elective amputation.
Elective.
That's quite worrying. The first time I heard of that.
Elective. So elective amputation, some patients, and we've had a few cases in the last year, 2 years, where patients just had constant problems with their feet, with circulation, non-healing, or they've had infections, and mobility has been a challenge. Mobility has been challenged. It's been a difficult period of their life, a year, 2 years, walking with crutches, not being able to put their foot down, constant pain, day in and day out, pain. And when they consult with us and we say, it's difficult to approach a patient and say, you need to have your leg amputated. So what we do is we educate the patient and we tell the patient, this is the world of prosthetics. This is what you will be able to achieve. Yes, it's not easy to have your limb amputated, It's difficult if someone had to ask me to do that. However, this is the world of prosthetics. This is what you'll be able to achieve. Think about it, go home, discuss, get a second opinion, and let us know. And we had 2 cases in the last 12 months where patients came back and said, Furqan, thank you for having that conversation with me. I've been having trouble with this foot for the last 5 years, for the last 6 years, and I'm going for amputation next week. Those patients now are living much more active lives. Yes, the limb has been amputated, but it's healed, it's completed, and they're using prosthetics. They're pain-free, they're much more active, they're much more healthier. Everything starts to stabilize. So that's something that's less common, but elective amputation is something that needs to be considered for patients that have trouble with their limbs.
You're listening to Medical Files, and the topic for discussion is the transition into prosthetics after an amputation. Our special guest is Furqan Salim Khamisa, a medical orthotist and prosthetist. This is an interactive program, and if you have any questions for our guest, you may forward them to us on 060 904 1056. That's via WhatsApp, 060 904 1056. Now, Furqan, if someone had to undergo an amputation, what would be the most ideal scenario to enhance post-amputation treatment outcomes?
So for any patient, especially those that have been suffering for extended period of time, it's vitally important that they engage with the doctors or the surgeons from the onset. And it would be the hope that the doctors would engage with a multidisciplinary approach. So that would include your psychologist, a physiotherapist, a biokineticist, and a prosthetist, obviously. With this approach, each health professional can approach a patient with a unique expertise. The psychologist can prepare the patient mentally, emotionally, psychologically, in preparation for the loss of limb. It's not something straightforward. You're not going in to remove a tooth, for example. This is a limb that's been with you
Absolutely.
from the day you were born, and this is a major or difficult time for the patient. So it's vitally important that we have that. The physiotherapist and the biokineticist will also be able to maintain the patient's core, the upper body strength. Obviously, they're going to be recovering. They're not going to be mobile. They're going to lose a lot of muscle. So the physios will be able to ensure that they maintain the level of strength. So during this challenging time, and as they go through the stages of treatment, to ensure that when the prosthesis does come in, they are able to use the prosthesis. They're not had a loss of volume or muscle mass where the prosthesis is now too heavy or whatever it might be. So that's very important. And then obviously you have the prosthetist who will have a pre-prosthetic consultation. Ideal situation, this I'm talking about. So a pre-prosthetic consultation, the patient is aware that you're going for amputation. It's life or limb. So the doctor has told him, this is it. We're going to save your life, or we need to amputate, one of the two. You're going to lose your life, you're going to lose your limb. You need to choose what you're going to be doing. So that will involve, we go in, we consult with the patient, we connect with the patient, getting to know them, getting to know the activities, getting to know the environment, and gives us opportunity to really get the fact to them that there is life after an amputation. It's not the end of the world. It's definitely not the end. And the world of prosthetics is greatly advanced. It's advanced to great levels. And they may lead a life as close as possible to the life they led prior to amputation. So I tell my patients, every pre-prosthetic consult, my goal and objective is to get you as close as possible to the life you led prior to amputation. So the words are very specific, as close as possible.
Yes.
I'm not saying I will get you there. I'll get you as close as possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in perfection. Prosthetics is man-made, so we will never ever be able to replace a limb that has been amputated, but we can get you as close as possible to be living your day-to-day lives and so on. So definitely.
Now, once amputation has taken place, Furqan, what are the steps that occur immediately thereafter?
So once amputation has taken place, the patient will remain in hospital for a few days after the amputation, and they will undergo daily physiotherapy in a hospital. They will then be discharged under the doctor's instructions. So the doctor will say, I'm happy for you to be discharged. Levels are fine and so on. And once they discharge, they will go home and they'll be under the care of a wound care sister. A wound care sister or nurse will see them probably twice a week, just to ensure that the stump or the residual limb or the amputation site is healing. And they will see the patient, as I said, twice a week and provide that information to the doctor. Doctors, this is a patient and so on, and this is the update, week 1, week 2, pictures and so on. And once we have that, then once we have complete wound healing, there's no oozing, there's no fluid, the site has healed up, then we'll start pre-prosthetic rehabilitation for the patient.
Approximately how long this takes?
So it's patient dependent. So 2 to 3 weeks, you're looking at around there. Some patients do extend to 4 to 6 weeks. So it really depends. I would think the shortest that we had was about 2 to 3 weeks by that month, but you gotta be very careful. Prosthetics involves adding something onto the residual limb, and that part of the body is not designed to take weight. And of today, it's not designed. The tibia, the shin bone, it's not designed to take weight. So we need to approach it with the necessary caution. You got external healing, but also you have internal healing. So I really put it on to my doctors to give me the go-ahead. My vascular surgeons give me the go-ahead. Okay, the patient is ready for pre-prosthetic rehabilitation, Jay.
Question comes through from one of the listeners. Is diabetes the main cause of amputations?
Most definitely. Diabetes, as I mentioned before, it is the main cause of amputation. So We highly advise our patients, again, if you have uncontrolled diabetes, try to keep it controlled, follow your doctor's recommendations, your prescriptions, look out for any injuries, any cuts, any bruises. Your footwear is vitally important as well. A nice comfortable fit, something soft. Try not to have any closed shoes are advisable, but something that's breathable as well. You don't want to have something moist, so that with regards to footwear, that falls under orthotics
Orthotics.
and so on, so that's the orthotics part. And
Yeah.
if it can lead to us treating you as a prosthetic patient, so
Okay.
let's try to keep it in the orthotics department. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. 060-904-1056. Any questions for our orthotists and prosthetists, then you may forward them to us via WhatsApp. Now, what is involved in pre-prosthetic rehabilitation?
So the patient's residual limb or the stump or the area that has been amputated will now need to be prepared. The shape of the stump will need to be conical. So after amputation, we'll notice that it's very bulbous, so it's swollen. We need to start to cone it. So we use different methods or techniques to reduce that volume. We need to get a prosthesis on. So prosthesis like a socket, so it needs to be conical for it to fit in. A bulbous, we're not going to get much joy that. So various techniques, as I said, to reduce the volume, and also acts, the bandaging that we use acts as a desensitizer onto the skin. Again, patients have sensitivities and so on. And as I mentioned before, the tibia, the shin bone, is not designed to take weight. So patients can have a lot of sensitivity on that area. So when you have the constant bandaging on it, it does tend to desensitize that area. And then we'll start to monitor the volume. We'll take measurements periodically, every week, every 2 weeks, and we'll make sure that the patient is reducing in volume. And once we find that it starts to stabilize, or it starts to reach a plateau where they're not reducing anymore, then that will be the indication, okay, what, the patient is conical, the volume has reduced, and now we are able to make a prosthesis, so a size. I give an example to the family. We need to make sure that the foot, the size stays consistent, because once you make a prosthesis, socket is not going to reduce with the volume. We'll have to make a whole new socket. Yes, there is technologies and so on where we can, but we try to, especially when it comes to funding and so on, try to do it right the first time. And we try to ensure that the prosthesis that we fit onto the patient last the patient for a year, 2 years minimum before they need to come back to us. So it's not that, here you go, there's a prosthesis, and a month later it's loose. They're not able to use it. That definitely will not be ideal.
Okay, there's more questions that's come for you,
Sure.
Furqan. Assalamu alaikum. What materials are used? What materials are the prosthesis made of? That's the first question. The second question is, does he custom make limbs or its legs off the shelf, for example?
So the materials in which prosthetics are made out of, we'll first need to just mention the parts of a prosthesis. So the first part I would say is the socket. That is custom made. So that's specifically custom made for a patient. You get different sizes. Patients amputated different volume sizes, different lengths. So that's custom made. The material that we use is carbon fiber, laminated resin. We use fiberglass. So those materials is light but strong at the same time. So that's why we tend to use that type of materials. We use a lot of pigment as well, so to get that color matching that tone onto the sound side. So cosmetic appearance is very vitally important. So to answer the question, prosthetics made out of different materials. That's the socket specifically. Underneath the socket, you have a pylon, so it's made out of titanium or aluminium.
Okay.
And then you have the prosthetic foot. The prosthetic foot, aluminium, the tubing and so on, we don't manufacture that.
Okay.
So we source that out from our suppliers, global leaders in the market, also Ottobock.
Yeah.
Those are the companies that we use. Yeah.
So the limbs are not custom made. And they're not something just take off the shelf. It is something that is they are custom made. They're not something just taken off the shelf.
Definitely.
Yeah. So this is what happens when you tend to read a question, both sides of the question at one time. Okay. Sure. Yeah. So they are custom made. They're not just taken off the shelf.
Correct.
Okay. And I think that's absolutely vital. You are listening to Medical Files, and just to remind you that the topic for discussion is the transition into prosthetics after an amputation. And our special guest this evening is Furqan Salim Khamisa, a medical orthotist and prosthetist, and he works in private practice at the Ahmed Al-Qadi Hospital in Durban. Now, just to remind you that the doctors and guests on the Medical Files program will help you with any medical problems you pose by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and have not examined you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your regular doctor who knows your medical history, your allergies, etc. Neither the doctors nor the relevant radio stations nor the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa will take any responsibility for any adverse reaction caused by the advice given to you on Medical Files. To remind you again, this is an interactive program. Any questions can be forwarded to us on 060 904 1056 via WhatsApp.
This adhan is sponsored for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
These surahs after Azan are brought to you by Amina's Wonder Spice and Wonder Dates, 9 Peters Road, Springfield, Durban.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands. Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate, and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers, and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths, and much more, Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our #1 priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
At Amina's Wonder Spice, we know that many of you already enjoy the pleasure of cooking with our 100% pure ginger and garlic. Our unique masala paste have created a new dimension and variety to your dishes. For all these reasons and more, we've called it a Wonder Spice. Amina's Wonder Spice, creating a unique taste in a paste. Available throughout South Africa, neighboring countries, and also in the UK. Contact us on 031 577 5023 or www.aminaspice.co.za.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
My local dealer wants my car.
Sellers Cars want it more.
Auto wants my car.
Sellers Cars want it more.
But also wants my car.
Sellers Cars want it more.
Wow. Shall I give them a call?
They'll do more, help more, and you could even get more. Cause Sellers Cars want it more.
Well, that's more like it.
Everyone wants your car, but Sellers Cars want it more. Visit sellerscars.co.za or call 0678 678 678.
You're listening to Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and hosted by myself, Faisal M. J. Suleiman. Our topic for discussion is the transition into prosthetics after an amputation, and our guest this evening is Furqan Salim Khamisa, a medical orthotist and prosthetist working in private practice at the Ahmed Al-Khadi Hospital in Durban. Now, Furqan, quite a few questions have come through. The first question says that the human body heals itself quickly, but why can't limbs grow back?
That's a very good question, but unfortunately, I don't have a suitable answer for that. But yeah, I mean, a bone structure is very different compared to skin and different components of the body. So where we have healing in a fracture, you're not necessarily going to have consistent growth taking place where it's going to replace it accordingly. I think amphibians are the only one that will be able to grow their tail back and so on, but different not humans.
Okay. And what happens to body parts after they are amputated?
So I'm going to be in the game of putting body parts back and not the other way around. So I don't have an answer for that. But I would assume, from Islamic perspective, the request can be put to the surgeon to have that limb retrieved. Obviously, you need to have the necessary documentation and police clearance, and then you can bury that at the Kabristan and so on. And that it's passed as medical waste, I would assume.
I think it's a bit of a personal question, but I think it's an important question because I'm sure this is going to help those that are interested in what in your career. What inspired Furqan to study such a unique career?
Okay, so this goes back many years when I was in high school, and my mom and my dad requested that I choose a profession that I needed to go to. So in summary, I don't want to expand on it too much. I did a career assessment at the Boston College, and according to the answers that I gave during the career assessment, it navigated and it gave me a direction which profession would be best for me to go. So radiography came up, optometry came up, orthotics, prosthetics came up, and so on. So my parents and my mom, especially, she ensured that I go to optometrists and spend the day with the optometrist to see how the real world is. So I did that. I went to a radiographer, did the same thing. I found that quite boring, black and white. Dentist, I wasn't too keen on that. And then I ended up at, because orthotics and prosthetic came up, we made a necessary appointments to see, went to a hospital, orthopedics, that's where I actually worked. And the minute I walked in there, I absolutely fell in love with it. It's a mix of mechanics and medicine, anatomy, changing people's lives, using your hands to create something. So that's, alhamdulillah. And it's been, 12 years and not a day's regret, I would say. Alhamdulillah.
Excellent. Now, Furkan, once the shape has been reduced, we spoke about about prosthesis, preparing the prosthetic, etc. Once the shape has been reduced, what will occur next?
So once the shape has reduced during the stage of coning, we'll have something called a prescription that we create when we're creating a prescription or prescribing a prosthesis. There's a few things we need to consider. We consider the patient's activity levels. We consider the daily activities, the employment, the environment, their terrain, the bathing arrangements, their weight, their age. As example, when one requires a vehicle, the first question is, what type of vehicle do you need? What type of vehicle will you require? So accordingly, once we do that full assessment and we get all the clinical history, we'll be able to prescribe a suitable prosthesis. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Components vary from activity level, something very basic for someone that walks in just within the home itself. And then you get something very high and someone that's on a promenade every morning and going to the gym. So there's a stark difference between the two prosthetic limbs, So if I had to mention Oscar Pistorius, for example, his running blades is very unique. It's not something that is suitable for a geriatric case or patient that's not going to be.
I heard you mention for someone that goes to the gym.
Yes.
Now, I know you said you try to bring them back as close as possible to as they were before.
Correct.
Does this mean that when you have these prosthetics, etc., you can still continue going to the gym, exercising, playing sports, etc.?
100%. I have patients that are more active after the amputation compared to prior to the amputation. So, prosthetics, highly advanced carbon fiber, different technologies implemented within the fabric and within the design of the prosthesis, so patients can run with the prosthesis, they can jog, they can lift weights. There's a whole lot of things that the patients can do, but it's patient specific. If you never do the comrades before amputation, you're not going to be doing the comrades, let's be realistic of it. So at the same time, it's very vast, but prosthetics, as amazing as it is, does come with some level of limitations. That's something that needs to be considered as well.
Okay, someone's very concerned here. Can you die from getting your leg amputated?
Can you die from getting your leg amputated? Not. So that would fall under the vascular surgeon and general surgeon and so on that do that. Obviously, before the amputation, all the tests are done. The cardiac surgeon is consulted and so on, and the patient's blood pressure, they being diabetic or not. So there's a whole lot of things that are considered before they are a suitable candidate for an amputation. But at the same time, the doctors usually put it on the table and not, this is the chances. We need to amputate. If we don't amputate, gangrene has set in, infection has set in, the patient is going to go to septic shock. They will likely pass on. So we need to amputate. However, the amputation comes with this risk. If the heart will be able to manage this procedure or not. And then it's a 50-50 or
in the Almighty's hands.
100%. So that's it. So I wouldn't necessarily say you will pass away, but there is that.
I know amputees who are still having a wonderful life.
Correct.
After amputation, they've had this prosthetics, etc.
Yes.
And they, as you say, they're enjoying life.
100%.
Okay, another question comes through. Assalamu alaikum. Very interesting. My 55-year-old cousin female lost her 4 toes due to sugar diabetes. How can you help and speak about cost factor? Wassalam. Okay. Obviously, you can't give quotations on air, but she's lost her 4 toes. How can we
so at that age, my first question would be is, how long ago was the foot or those toes amputated? That's number one. Has it healed up completely? And what effect does it have on the patient's day-to-day activities? Is she able to mobilize and so on? 4 toes is major, so we might not, we take it for granted. The toes, we take it for granted really. But if you stub your toe, you're limping. Why? Because it's injured. Then you realize the importance of that toe. So what I usually do in that case, we manufacture something called a toe filler. So it's an insert that goes inside the shoe itself. It's like an insole. But where those digits or those toes are amputated, we'll fill it up with a foam, and that will give the patient some level of feedback. So when when they're walking, the heel touches the ground first, the midfoot next, and then the toes usually propel us forward. So that foam will give the patient that sensation of a full sensation of walking. What we also do is I sometimes implement a carbon blade, so a thin carbon blade underneath the inner sole, so that creates a spring on the patient's step, and that allows them to get. So the first thing will be what challenges are they experiencing from there, and then the way forward. Pricing, I mean, you're not looking at something ridiculously high, nothing more than 1,500, 2,000.
Okay.
It varies depending on the size, what materials, what complications, if I need to put the carbon blade and so on. So
Yeah, just another question that comes to mind. Talking of pricing, does medical aid cover this?
So yes, medical aids do pay for prosthetics. They should pay it out from if the patient has an appliance benefit or a prosthetic benefit. But it's very important to know that amputation of any cause is a PMB condition. So prescribed minimum benefit. So yes, medical aids will have to pay for the prosthesis. They have their own rates and so on, but it is a PMB condition, and the patients won't be able to claim that. Or we do, put forward a claim to medical aid from the PMB benefit. So yeah, medical aids do pay for that.
Okay, talking of medical aid, we need to visit the marketplace. We'll take a short break.
100%.
Is your car in need of repairs or some TLC?
At Sham Panel Beaters, we take pride in providing top-notch service for over 40 years.
Conveniently located at 140 Felix Lamini Road, Overport, Durban, we specialize in repairs for both insurance claims and cash jobs.
Enjoy a free diagnostic test, polish, mini valet with every guaranteed repair.
We treat your pride and joy as our own and are approved by all major insurance companies and brokers.
Sham Panel Beaters is also an AA and RMI accredited repairer.
Trust us with your vehicle today.
Would you like to give Sadaqah 365 days a year? You can with the Al Imdad Foundation's Daily Sadaqah program. Donate as little as R1 a day for a month for each member of your family, up to any specified amount, and receive monthly feedback on where your contributions have made a difference. Visit alimdad.com and download your Daily Sadaqah debit order form or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
You are number one.
The Culinarium offers the best selection for this season's gifts, like the DeLonghi Scolpito kettle and toaster at 4,000 Rand, or the DeLonghi Stelosa espresso machine, ideal for making authentic specialty drinks. Latte, cappuccino, and espresso at 2,699. Best price in town. The Culinarium, turning your house into a home. Visit us online at www.theculinarium.co.za for greater deals.
Wawas, where shopping is fun, and you are number one.
You listen to Medical Files, and it's brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and hosted by myself, Faisal MJ Suleiman. Our topic for discussion is the transition into prosthetics after an amputation. And our guest this evening is Furqan Salim Khamisa, a medical orthotist and prosthetist working in private practice at the Ahmed Al Khadi Hospital in Durban. Now, Furqan, there's a few more questions come through. The first question comes through is, can vascular disease lead to a loss of a limb?
Yes, vascular disease, and as I mentioned before, diabetes and so on, is a cause for amputations. So it's very important that the patient consults with their doctors, with the surgeons, and they keep the treatment regime going well. They do follow-ups every 6 months and so on. Amputation is not the first line of treatment. So obviously, we try to save the limb. There's a whole lot of stuff that the doctors will try to implement. And as a last resort, when the doctors are like, you know what, this is it. There's no blood flow. Absolutely no blood flow. We've done the Doppler test and so on. There's no blood flow. And this is it. Sepsis is going to set in, and we got no hope. And then that's when they do the amputation at a suitable level. We consult with the doctors. We discuss the case and try to get ensure that if amputation is done at a certain level, we are able to implement and use prosthetics effectively. So we do discuss that in length, yes.
Now, after the shaping and reduction stage, there are a few stages that take place. What are these stages?
So in summary, we'll say that I would be seeing the patient a number of times, so it's very important, as I mentioned before, to have a good communication link, comfortable with the prosthetist. In summary, there's 3 big events. So once we have pre-prosthetic, we're shaping the stump, we got it at a nice size. The first big event is casting, where we take a mold of the stump itself. So I take a mold, plaster Paris, and I use that mold to create a socket. The second big event is when the patient comes in for fitting of a socket or the prosthesis. So I use a test socket first. So it's a plastic socket. I put it on. Patient walks with it. As I said, it's made out of plastic. I can heat it. I can adjust it. They walk around with it. They make sure they're comfortable. I check how it is. They take it home. So as I said, they take it home, they use it. And once they are 100% happy with the prosthesis, there's no discomfort, there's no pain, the alignment is spot on, they're using the prosthesis and they're happy with it, then we move on to the third big event, and that's when they give the prosthesis back to me and I complete it, I shape it, I color it, I ensure that it matches the sound side or the non-affected side as close as possible, whether it's pigmentation, whether it is foam, whether it's a covering, whether it's silicone. And that's the third big event in summary. So those three big events, that's what you're looking at.
And what about mobility aids and prosthetic use?
So that's a very good question. So essentially what happens, patients, we always say that safety is priority. Safety is without a doubt priority. At our center, the patients are trained using parallel bars. So they walk on parallel bars, they get their confidence. And when they discharge, bare minimum, they need to use a walking frame. Bare minimum with a walking frame. As they transition through the weeks, they get the confidence, they get the know-how of how to use the prosthesis, they get to use the prosthesis and so on. Then move on to crutches. So a pair of crutches, one on either side. Thereafter, they should wean themselves off and then either use one crutch or walking stick. And sometimes, in most cases, no crutches, so not using any mobility aids. So it's very, very important. And then we have patients that walk out with the prosthesis, with either just a single crutch. Experienced prosthetic patients are quite amazing. They'll literally run out the consultation room after using a prosthesis because they've been using it for such a number of years. So mobility aids do play a role, but it's age dependent, activity level dependent, and so on. Yeah.
Does one sleep with the prosthesis?
No. So the prosthesis is it's like a shoe. It's
Okay.
an assistive device. At night, the patient will take it off. We do educate the patient on how to clean the prosthesis, how to make sure that the liner is clean, it's dried, and they definitely will not sleep with the prosthesis. No, they put it on first thing in the morning and most likely take it off last thing at night. Yeah.
And can one shower with the prosthesis?
With the standard prosthesis, no, but we do offer our patients shower prosthetic legs. So it's fully waterproof. The patients can walk into the shower, have the shower with the prosthetic leg, not an issue. Components are designed in such a way that they'll drain the water will drain from the prosthesis. And as I said, it's stainless steel or titanium I'm using. So it's fully waterproof and we don't have any issues. So you can, but it needs to be either shower prosthetic leg, designed specifically being waterproof. You can shower with it, you can bath with it and so on. Not an issue. Or you can swim with it actually.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about swimming. Yeah.
Swimming, yeah.
Okay. Now, will a prosthetic user be able to drive with a prosthesis?
Depending the activity, the amputation level, left or right, obviously manual, automatic. A lot of our patients are able to drive, especially those that have right leg lower limb amputation. So you still have control of the accelerator. When it comes to the left leg or above the knee, that's when it does become a bit challenging. There is a special license that the patient will have to apply for. I had a patient of mine that recently discussed a case where insurance and so on wasn't willing to cover him unless he gets a specific license. So that was a major challenge for him, but alhamdulillah, he got through. And then you have assistive devices, handheld controls that you are able to implement onto your vehicle to ensure that you are able to drive. So, yeah.
Okay, a question that comes through is how fatal is above the knee amputation compared to a lower knee amputation?
So amputation, irrespective of which level it is, comes with its own risk, as I mentioned. It's not fatal. It's I'm not sure if the patient is bordering on asking how is prosthetic use, afterwards. Do I have a life after that? Just to touch on that, the higher we go, there is an increase on challenge with regards to prosthetic use. So the knee is amputated, I need to implement a prosthetic knee. So another joint that the patient will need to. So there's no fatality as such, but definitely there's a difference in prosthetic usage between the two. Yeah.
Okay, those are the questions came in from the listeners, and then another question came is, what age is considered too old or too young to use a prosthesis?
So there's no age that's too young or too old. As far as stats is concerned, my youngest patient was 18 months old when 18 months old. So he was just managing to stand up, hold onto the couch and so on. So he was born with a condition referred to as amniotic band syndrome, where within the womb itself, amniotic bands wrapped around the limb, and that's where the amputation took place. So we had to make a prosthesis out of nothing, because out of the material that we had, because there's no ready-made off-the-shelf components for
absolutely.
that. So alhamdulillah, he's 4.5, 5 years, and he's thriving. He's absolutely thriving. The oldest patient that we have is 92 years old.
Okay.
So there's vast. So there's no
So
age.
age is not a barrier.
No, definitely
And
not.
how long will a prosthesis last on average?
So on average, I would say the components usually have a warranty of up to 2 years, so 24 months. If anything goes wrong or whatever it might be of the components, then we have that 24-month warranty on that. With regards to the socket itself, that varies. So primary amputees, first-time amputees will have a lot of volume changes taking place within the first year, 2 years, and so on. That's nothing we can do about it. It's natural. We try to reduce it. I spoke about shaping and so on, but you're still going to have that reduction taking place. But I would say on average, anywhere between 2 to 5 years, that's what you're looking at here. But every 6 months, annually, patients come in. We do a full assessment. Patients sometimes come before they leave for holiday, before Umrah. They come to us. We do a service on the prosthetic leg just to make sure all the components are intact. Strip the leg, put everything back together, like a car service, And obviously, we specialize in it. So you may think everything is good and fine, and you come through, and then it's a world of a difference, afterwards. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, if one would like to engage in sports, what type of prosthesis will the person require?
So when it comes to sports, we use specific components that are designed for heavy weight bearing, carbon fiber blades, prosthetic blades. We are able to implement it onto the prosthesis. Again, amputees, Paralympics. If you look at that, we'll be able to make a prosthesis designed for that. So it's not that you're going to be using that every day, all day. As a sportsman, you're going to have 2 or 3 sets of prosthetics.
Okay.
Swimming prosthesis, running prosthesis. So it comes down to shoes. You got a work shoe, we got a casual shoe, and you got your tacky that you do your park runs or whatever it might be with. In the very same, your prosthetic components will be able to achieve what you like to achieve when it comes to sports. Yeah.
Now, is using a prosthesis painful?
No. If your prosthesis is painful, if you experience any pain, then it needs to be checked out. You should not be experiencing any pain or consistent level of pain. So if there's a volume change, you're going to have a bit of pressure and so on. But that should be resolved at your next consultation with your prosthetist. Vitally important. So pain is not something that you should be consistent or constantly experiencing now.
Furkan, I've learned a lot about this particular topic.
Alhamdulillah.
Something that many of us are not or favored.
Sure.
And alhamdulillah, it's been very, very informative. Your participation this evening, and I'm sure you have some closing remarks and a message for our listeners.
Alhamdulillah, Ji, definitely. I would say that the world of prosthetics is absolutely vast. There's no limitations to what an amputee can achieve. And it's imperative to maintain a positive mindset throughout the journey. I recommend that my patients or a patient take the support that's been offered by them, by others to them, whether it's the family or the rehabilitation team, and create a strong link with your prosthetist, as they will be your go-to person, for many, many more years to come. So the surgeon and so on pass, and your prosthetist is going to be your best friend or your leg man, as I put it sometimes.
Your leg man, I like that one.
And I like to end out on a quote by Carl Jung, and he says, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." So that's very, very important, and it's again important for patients to have a positive mindset, and we see that difference between patients that have that positive mindset, the willingness to achieve and succeed.
I
Alhamdulillah.
know our time is out. There's a question. On the lighter note, something's come from Brother Muhammad. I'll read that to you privately because our time is up. I want to thank the engineers in the various radio stations for having engineered this evening, and I want to thank the listeners for tuning into Medical Files. Medical Files will be back with you next Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock, inshallah. And from myself, Phil and Faisal MJ Sulaiman, it's Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
An informative Islamic global perspective.